Today on the Region Free Gamers podcast, Metroid Zero Mission, Umarangi Generation, and Huntdown.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, a podcast fluent in gaming. I'm Mike, and I'm currently holed away in a snowbound abyss, hands shaking, prepared to be one with a wolf to survive. Today we thought as we deal with psychotic cold snaps, it would be a great opportunity to chat about what we've been playing lately. So grab some cocoa or a hot toddy and bundle up with us by the fire for gaming tales. Joining me on this Arctic ride, we have resident hustler, all devil man, and no crybaby. It's Arnie. How are you holding up in this glacial hell?
It's fucking cold, dude. I'm still trying to figure out if Tom Brady is retiring or not, so I'm holding off any emotions until that moment.
I love that report. He's retiring, and then somebody's like, one person runs with like, "Stop the press! He's not."
Yeah. His dad is like, he's not, but apparently he is. He just doesn't. Dad. He didn't want to be scooped on his own retirement for some reason, so he was like, "I'm definitely not retiring until I actually
retire."
It
was his dad. I liked it was his dad.
Yeah. I know that's
that really says something. It really says something about that dude, man. Honestly, it
says something about the media too. Okay. Quick, call his father, call his daddy, confirm.
Yeah. Well, everything about his retirement is fucking weird because every year, and maybe this is just me reading into this, but every year it's like his bitch ass wife is like, "Oh, you need to fucking retire."
Oh
right
my
now.
God! Every year they're like, "Oh man, yeah, his wife is really putting the pressure on him." Spend more time with the kids. He doesn't want to
retire, but fucking his wife, for some reason, has a problem with him getting sat on by 300-pound men every year.
Okay.
Video games?
Next. Yeah. So, and also, last but not least, while we took heat for granted, he studied both the elements and the blade, and how dare we have the nerve to ask him for help now with the barbarians of climate change at the gate. It's Paul. Paul, how you doing?
You guys are all gonna die, and you're not gonna get any help from me. I'm very well situated for the climate change apocalypse, I think, actually.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, we talk about this every once in a while. There's plenty of game up here. No agriculture not so easy up in the Yukon, though. We might get scurvy, and that'll be the end of it. But
yeah,
that's true. Good point.
How are you at swimming? Like, when the glaciers melt, do you think you'll hold up all right in the water world future?
Well, I mean, it's Arctic up here, dude. Like, swimming's not going to matter when I'm dying of hypothermia.
You've survived hypothermia once. I feel like if you've got a strong enough canoe, you can make it anywhere.
As always, before we get started, and also before we kind of like dish a little bit, huge thank you, shout out, all the listeners, all the patrons, those of you tuning in live on Twitch right now. It's tremendously appreciated. If you like what you hear, it's even more appreciated if you kindly leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. 5 stars, please. We've got over 100 episodes and counting if you feel like a deep dive. We've also got a link tree at linktr.ee/regionfreegamers. If you're curious, we do have a Patreon, and for a Wet n Wild dual pencil sharpener a month, you can access the patron-only Discord channel, and only a few dollars more can get you access to other goodies, like interacting and listening live as we record on Twitch, like some people are now, and submitting requests and voting on what we cover. We also have a Discord that's just free for everybody, where you can see everyone share really thoughtful opinions on current games, like just really bearing their soul, sharing very intelligent takes, but then also stepping on each other's necks to beat more games than the other person.
That's right.
Lately it's been Ozzy and Chris just like hot taking every fucking game that's ever been made.
Yeah.
Yesterday they went off on Nights into Dreams for the Saturn, and I'm like, guys, I didn't even get involved in the conversation.
I know, you just wait until the microphone is on to
and
air.
then I go to town because nobody can talk back.
Exactly.
But they're going off on Nights into Dreams, and I'm thinking of all my fond memories of playing Nights into Dreams and how I really enjoyed the music and the feel, and once you kind of get the hang of it.
There's a Christmas update.
There's a Christmas update. I'm looking at what's wrong with Nights? But
I mean, he does, aside from the fact that they sneak into like children's bedrooms at night to like take them on wild adventures. I guess nothing.
Please, I would have given anything for somebody to sneak into my bedroom and take me on a wild adventure when I was a kid. Holy shit, man. My life was so fucking boring. Oh wow, fish and boiled potatoes for dinner. Yum.
Oh,
you are the reason that
Portugal.
like they had to make all those like 90s after school specials, huh? Like,
I would have gone with anybody.
A stranger special.
It didn't even have to be good candy. Could have been fucking Werthers Originals, man. I'm in that van in 2 seconds.
All right, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
It's something different. Let's just go.
Not even like a Scotch mint. It wouldn't even have to be like a designer chocolate. It could just be like some black licorice, and you'd be like, will I? Where will we go on this adventure? Oh man,
I can't believe I just disparaged Werther's Originals like that. They're delicious.
Yeah, they are delicious.
Yeah,
man.
Sorry. I apologize for disparaging them. That was
my old person candy of choice is malted milk balls, some good Whoppers or something.
Oh yeah, I know, because they last a little while, man. They just sit in your mouth and give you this like slow drip of delicious flavor.
IV of Werthers are gonna hook up to you. In the
quick, let's not talk about video games. I can see Mike is desperate to
go. So, but again, all kidding aside, we do really want to thank patrons and people on Discord. The podcast is growing, going somewhere good, and we have all of you guys to thank for it.
I wouldn't be able to rise and grind without your hard-earned money.
It's super fun. It's just super fun. So we are going to be talking about what we have been playing lately, and I don't really have any kind of cool, clever way to intro this. I'm just going to tell Arnie, start talking about a game that you've been playing.
Oh, shit. I'm going first? Oh, no.
Get off your phone.
I know. I thought I'd flip the script.
That's not how this goes.
He saw you looking down, and he's like, ambush him.
You motherfucker.
It's my teacher. My teacher vibes coming back out. I'm like, oh, Arnaldo, do you have something you'd like to add? Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll start with the shittier game I've been playing, because it's funnier that way.
Is it Nights into Dreams?
No, it's way worse than that. I'd rather play Nights into Dreams than this fucking game.
Oh,
and I feel weird about it too, because like I feel like these are usually like let's be positive, like feel good, and I like to consider myself a sort of optimistic type person when it comes to like games. Like I'm like, oh yeah, here's the nice thing about this. Yeah, and like I'll say the nice thing about this game is that it's fucking over, I guess. It's fucking Dr. Lautrec. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, because it's French. And The Forgotten Nights, I think, is what it's called. This is a game I hadn't heard of until like 3 months ago. I bought this off of somebody on Instagram doing some sort of claim sale. It was like $10, and I was like, oh, it's a 3DS puzzle game? like, yes.
I know, just the title alone. And I'm like, oh, it's Dr. Layton. Because it has that, has that, Dr. Lautrec and the...
That's Professor Layton to you, sir.
Did I say Dr. Layton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to be fired.
Getting your honorifics all mixed up here.
Saint Layton.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just convinced that like there's no way this could be that bad. Like, it's a puzzle game. Like, puzzle games by their very nature are just good for me.
High floor, low ceiling.
Do the thing. Yeah, exactly. And so I ordered it, I got it, and I quickly added it to my like, these are 10 games that I'm definitely gonna beat this year list.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this will be a nice break up from all the massive RPGs and like high octane energy games that I've decided to play for some reason. So I pop it in and I start playing it. And within like 30 seconds, if you've played a Professor Layton game, within 30 seconds, you're like, oh, this is just like a complete ripoff. Like from the animation style and the cutscenes to like the way it's like structured to the graphic, like everything is just completely just like imagine that these two games are Nicolas Cage and fucking John Travolta, and they've like surgically removed each other's faces and put them on the other person. Like that's what's happened here. It's a face-off situation.
Wow.
And at first, I was just
want to continue that metaphor so much, but I'm like, I don't know how it's gonna work.
I mean, Dr. Lautrec is definitely Nicolas Cage in this analogy.
Okay.
Like, they're definitely the evil person.
So he's John Travolta.
Yes. Okay. He's John Travolta with Nicolas Cage's face on him.
Yeah, Papa's got a brand new
Thank you for correcting us on that, Mike.
And so the thing about it is, at the beginning, it's like, oh, this could be promising. Because the whole deal is like you play as Dr. Lautrec and his assistant, Sophie, and they're basically like explorers who go around France, like uncovering ancient relics.
Mike's shaking his head. What's wrong with France?
The whole thing is like, it's like, oh, we can't completely rip off Professor Layton. So like, what's not England? Oh, France. Okay.
Right.
So it's all France now.
Okay.
And so the whole thing is very like, the way the game progresses is like, okay, so here's like a riddle, and it's like, oh, the riddle ties into something in France, like a building or a place or whatever. And it's like, okay, so how do I solve the riddle? You don't. It basically, what happens is like you watch a cutscene or you go through text and they're like explaining to you how the riddle works. And it's like, here's 3 places we can go. And then you go to all 3 places and it's like, aha, I figured it out. It's this place. And then you go to that place. And then it's like, here's the place. And this is why it's the place. And then they talk to you about French history for like 2 minutes. And then they're like, okay, so now that we're at the place, how do we get into the dungeon? Well, you have to go into a first-person mode, and you have to find a fucking fleur-de-lis that's hidden somewhere on the screen. And then they're like, all right, here's the entrance to the thing. And then you go in the dungeon. And then what do you do in the dungeon? You walk around, and you find gems that are in treasure chests, and you try not to be caught by cops. What happens if the cops catch you? They put you at the beginning of the room that you're in, and you have to start the puzzle all over again.
Wait a minute. So the puzzle is the dungeon? And finding...
There's a mix of things. So the first thing you have to do is you have to wander around and not get caught.
Okay.
Because if you get caught, like at first this is not that bad because it's just empty rooms. You just have to cross. So you just have to like Metal Gear memorize like their walking patterns, which is fairly easy.
Okay.
Literally, they could be right next to you, but as long as they're not looking directly at you, they're not going to give a shit.
Only the best. Only the best security.
Yeah, only the best. And so
France.
What happens eventually is you'll run into doors, and these doors have actual puzzles on them. But the puzzle, what I quickly discovered is that unlike Professor Layton, where there's like 120 fucking puzzles and there's different riddles and different types of riddles, this game has like, I want to say 5 different types of puzzles that you're going to do over and over again. There's a Minesweeper puzzle. There's a Tanagram puzzle where you like make shapes with other pieces of shapes. There's a crossword puzzle where you basically are given a list of words and you have to put them all in correctly. Except the puzzle will not let you do it incorrectly, because if 2 words cross each other and they don't work together, the puzzle's like, you can't put that word there.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of being like, let me find the words that intersect and what words intersect with those words. It takes 2 minutes to figure out.
Let me just hammer
even on the highest
square
difficulty.
object at this round hole until it fits.
There's the what comes next in the sequence puzzle, which is probably my second to least favorite puzzle, and my least favorite puzzle is the Minesweeper puzzle.
Yeah, no, those are
by far the most annoying.
Yeah. What comes next in the sequence is numbers?
No, it's like, okay, here's a triangle with a circle in it. Now here's a triangle with like a square in it. Now here's a triangle with another triangle in it. What would be next? And then they give you 5 options of like different things, and you have to figure out which one's next.
That
based on like the pattern.
That sounds brutal.
You finished this
man.
game?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very bad.
Why did you finish it?
Well, most of them are like stupid easy. Most of them are like, here's a triangle, and there's another triangle in it that's like facing the same way. And then in the next image, it's like moved 90 degrees. And then in the next image, it's moved another 90 degrees. And then it's like, what's the next one in the sequence?
I think I can tell you why he finished it, Mike. I think it's our tracking spreadsheet. Because we have this games finished spreadsheet now on Discord, which is great, by the way. I really love that everybody's participating in this, and I get to see what everybody's playing and what everybody's finished, and we have debates about what constitutes a finished game or not, which I didn't expect to have. But this, however, is the dirty byproduct of this great idea, is that people just want to put the fucking game on the list, so they play all the way through Dr. Lautrec and
I haven't
and the Puzzle
even
Knights.
explained to you, like, possibly the worst part of the whole thing yet. So then what you get by unlocking the doors is more shitty dungeon, which I didn't even get to the part where the part about not getting caught gets worse, because later on you have to like complete paths to get to the other end of a room by pushing boxes, and the boxes, first of all, you push them extremely slowly. Yeah. And second of all, if you get caught, all the boxes reset and you have to do it all over again.
Nice, perfect. This is I can't wait to play it.
And so the other aspect of the game is once you unlock the doors, you then go into relic rooms. And how you get relics is you have to fight them Pokemon style with your relics. So the way this works is it's actually quite fucking simple, which I was very surprised by. The way it works is each relic has a set amount of HP. Okay. And each relic has an attack value and a defense value.
Right.
And then there are, I believe, 4 types of relics. There's humanoid relics, terrestrial relics, avian relics, and aquatic relics. Oh, and arboreal relics. There's 5.
Okay.
And there's some fucking chart of like, this relic is strong against this other relic and weak against whatever relic.
It's
except
just
for
like Fire
arboreal relics, which are not strong or weak to anything. And the way it works is you have to lower the HP of a relic to within a certain amount in order to capture it. If you lower it to 0, you still capture it, but it's fucking dead, and you have to revive it with like items and shit.
Okay.
So you want to like kill it, but not kill it all the way, which is more annoying than it sounds, because like
just kill
it. Really?
The
way it sounds
that
pretty annoying.
It's very annoying, but it's even more annoying because the way the advantages work is not like, oh, you get a plus whatever to your attack. It's like, oh, it's plus 30% if you're at an advantage, unless you put it on because the way the grid is laid out, it's like these pedestals, and some pedestals are cracked. And if you put a relic on a cracked pedestal, then you get a debuff to your attack. And then if you put it next to another relic that it's disadvantaged against, then you get minus 10%, but then you still get your plus 30% from the relic you're trying to attack that you're advantaged against. So you have to figure out where you're putting all your relics, and then some of the pedestals are specific to certain relic types, and then some pedestals you can only put relics on specific turns.
I'm gonna throw up.
And then the gems you collect you can also use to fight against relics. They're only advantaged against humanoid relic types, but they also are your XP at the end of the dungeon. So the more gems you have, the more XP you get to level up your relics. But the leveling up of the relics actually doesn't fucking mean anything, because you're always collecting more relics that are at higher levels. So you just use the higher level relics.
So it's good then that this game is aimed towards children.
Yes.
Because it's very simple to understand. So I love this because it's just like somewhere they were like, well, we can't just rip off Professor Layton, so we gotta like change something.
So we gotta
make
it Professor Layton X Yokai Watch or some fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and so their decision, it seems like their decision was, well, let's dumb down all the puzzles and take away all of that creativity there, but we're going to make everything else so cool. And instead it's just this over-designed...
It's really bad.
It's this half-baked, overcooked mess.
Oh, yeah,
Honestly,
man. Like, the curse of more.
The thing about it is if you are competent enough... This game only has 6 chapters. There's only 6 chapters in the whole fucking game. And what I didn't realize is that the relics, most of them are optional. Like, you could just
If you
plow
say
through
relic
the story.
one more time, I'm just going to mute you, honestly.
Well, the thing I didn't realize when I was on, like, the 3rd chapter, I was like, oh, I don't have to do every single riddle. I just have to do enough so that I have items that are strong enough to defeat
I love that we can see
whatever chapter boss or whatever. But the thing about it is that it sort of lulls you into that false sense of security, because the final boss, you literally get to use every single relic you've collected. And,
You said it.
and if you
Next game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And if you don't have enough, you can't fucking beat him.
Amazing. Arnie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was so great because as you were talking, I could see on your face that you were trying not to say relic.
Yes,
For
I was
about
very
10
hard.
seconds, you were like, riddle, and you collect items.
Yep.
And I'm like, yes, so good.
Overall,
But
I
no,
mean, and the story is nothing to write home about either.
Oh, man, this sounds like such a drag, dude.
It was fine. It was like a 5 out of 10 game. Like at the very least, it worked. Do you know what I mean? Like it was
Okay, yeah,
never
that's
stuck
fair.
on
That's
something
fair.
where it was like, oh, this is completely broken. Like
Yeah.
the real crime was that everything was so fucking easy, except the things that were extremely annoying, which is usually
Yeah.
getting caught and having to do a puzzle
Yeah.
all over again. But everything else,
was-
like all the other puzzles and shit, like all you lose by like not being able to solve something is reputation, which I don't give a shit about. So it was usually like, all right, I'm just gonna try every single option until I figure it out.
Yeah.
What is the reputation?
All
what
it
is the
does-
reputation effect?
So basically, at the end, like the woman who gives you all these riddle maps, she like grades you on your performance after every thing you find. And so she's like, if you have to use hints on a puzzle, or if you fail a puzzle, then you lose points off your total score. The only thing you use your score for is to buy items to revive ancient items.
Yes.
And so the only reason you would ever do that is if you're using them over and over again and you get them murdered, which is actually harder to do than you think it is. I
Right.
never use this stuff my entire playthrough.
So who's this lady? Is she like God or
She's some
something?
masked lady that lives in like an underground thing under like some French opera, who's like, this is where all the adventurers come to like hang out.
Okay. So this leads me to my next. Sorry, I want to know.
Thank you, Mike, for
is
not
the
moving on to
charm-
the next game. Please ask more questions about Dr.
I just
Lautrec.
want to know, like, is the charm there? Like, are the characters interesting? Is the world kind of neat at least? Or
Only
is
in
it
the
just-
sense that like it ripped off Professor Layton, so like the character
Oh, okay.
designs are like nice and cartoony and like,
Yeah.
but no, I mean not even really, because it's like the most interesting part to me is like, oh, there's actual French history, like they explain like stuff about like the French nobility and like you know all these like monuments that are being built and how they were built and who built them and like you know stuff like, so if you're a history buff, like that stuff's kind of interesting. But like, I mean, also like the professor's like, I'm assuming legally
Doctor.
acceptable female. Oh, sorry, doctor.
Oh, he's a doctor. Yeah.
Female sidekick is like secretly in love with him, and like he's too cool to like notice or whatever until the end when he's like, I could never live without you. So it's like the same
lame.
fucking bullshit.
Nice. Ross and Rachel.
pretty
I like this.
Yep. There you go.
Okay. Wow, that was certainly a ride.
Yeah.
I know it's cool to hear because like I didn't know about the game either until a couple months ago when you mentioned it. So I'm glad you checked it out and let us know. But it's kind of a bummer that it ended up being mediocre.
Yeah. This reminds me of like the Etrian Odyssey clones that started popping up after on the DS, that not
Right.
all were good. And but like you just Jones for it, right? Like you love Professor
Yeah.
Layton, you want more Professor Layton. Oh, Dr. Lautrec, I think I'll try this. And then oh god, no.
Thankfully, it's very cheap. It's like an $8 game.
Yeah.
Like
I guess
complete in box.
Yeah, that checks
it's
out.
not. It won't set you back any. I mean, it'd be very hard to recommend this unless you've played every single Professor Layton game and you just love those cutscenes so much.
Yeah.
No.
It's the
Paul,
only
how
way.
about you? What have you been playing lately?
Well, Arnie, do you want to do another game, or do we want to just kind of go round table here?
I need a minute to recover.
Okay, very good. So do we, but I'll soldier through.
That's what I was assuming. That's what I was assuming. I didn't want to. But
I need a second.
yeah.
Well, for me, the first game I've been playing is Huntdown, and that's almost kind of how they say it in the game.
Already my favorite. Already something that I know I'm into, because like good game studios, good games are just two random words mashed together. Technocop, Huntdown.
Yep.
Oh my god, mine is too. That I'm gonna say. I just realized mine is too.
But yeah, Huntdown, all platforms if you want to try it. I played it on the Switch, but it's available pretty much everywhere. Released last year. I think it was like early last year. Easy Trigger Games, an outfit out in Sweden with one Canadian on the team. They made sure to point out, who, according to their website, apologizes for things he didn't do wrong, which that kind of checks out.
Which tracks.
Classic.
But even oh my god, dude, just the name and the title screen. That title screen pops up. I generally don't care about title screens too much, right? Like they come up, whatever, who cares, right? But Huntdown's title screen is just like setting the table. The characters kind of like appear as shadows and they fire at the screen, and the music comes up and it's a dude just saying "Hunt Down," and I'm like, yes, I can't wait to hunt down. So
we don't do that anymore, huh? Like characters shooting at the screen.
Very few.
I was watching somebody review some Neo Geo thing, and they were playing Shock Troopers, and I just saw a guy with a fucking like M16 just like blasting the screen. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it is. I guess you can't overdo it, right?
Yeah.
Or else it becomes like 1996 and lens flare. So,
Fair enough.
But anyhow,
I mean,
all Easy Trigger Games, according to them, their philosophy is to actually think inside the box, which I thought was hilarious, and just kind of go with proven gameplay methods and just kind of refine them and create a fun experience. And I like it, man. That's exactly what they did. This is a side-scrolling run and gun. I'd say if I was to compare it to anything, it'd be closer to Mega Man than Contra. Although without the platforming, there's very little platforming in this game, which automatically means that I like it even more.
Right.
So, but you can't fire in 8 directions. You can only fire forward. So, yeah, the aesthetic is probably the best part of the game. Like the game itself would be good with, some kind of whatever bland modern aesthetic. Like think Total Recall for the NES, where you're just kind of going through the streets and guys are punching you.
Not a moment goes by that I'm not thinking about Total Recall for the NES.
Are you saying Total Recall of the NES is bland?
It's not bland. Its environments are bland, but the victory
Didn't that game
of Total
have very
Recall,
short individuals that like attack you?
It has so many things, Arnie. Like the victory of that game is that it takes those bland environments, but then makes a masterpiece out of them. Right?
Yes. It's true.
Total Recall is greater than the sum of its parts. Huntdown,
it is,
just makes great environments and then builds a great game around them. So just kind of think Blade Runner meets the Warriors. And that's kind of what you got. Like you have this Warriors vibe, but it's a little bit more futuristic. The gangs in the game are really cool. There's like a kind of a retro wave looking gang, and then there's another gang that's hockey players. And
nice.
Yeah,
I bet I know who designed that one.
That's probably the running. Yeah, that was probably the running gag at the office.
Maybe. Although Swedes love hockey too, man.
That's true.
They're super into it. So
does the hockey gang like drop their gloves and then fucking pull their Glocks or whatever and try to kill you?
Yes, but
Nice.
a lot of attacks with hockey sticks as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the goalies have extra
inefficient
armor.
when you're holding a giant weapon.
Sub-Zero would like a word.
Just plain zero.
Yeah, just plain zero from the Running Man. I hope people understood that. Anyway, Paul, I was gonna ask. I definitely got some Technocop vibes from the game and from the Huntdown. I confess, like I haven't played it. Like, so is it just sort of strictly run and gun? Or are there any kind of like hostage mechanics or like capturing people or things like that, or is it just kind of strictly run and gun? No, again, not that that's a bad thing.
No, it's a terrible thing. I have no time for hostages. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to stop firing and think about who the target is. I just want to.
Fair.
I just want to kill it if it's on the screen, right?
Yeah.
No, there's
fair.
no hostage situation. There's no exploration, which is also great. Like I'm not here to play Metroid. I'm here to play Huntdown, right? Like if I want to play Metroid, I'll play Metroid. There's hardly any of that. Basically, they're in every level. In order to 100% the game, there are 3 stashes, like in briefcases, and you kind of have to find those. But they're generally pretty obvious. Like you don't have to work too hard to find the stashes. And often the stash is carried by a dude. And then the dude sees you coming and he runs away to protect the stash. And so you have to hunt him down and take the stash from him, which usually kind of puts you into a hairy situation. Because in this game, like, I mean, obviously you can speedrun it if you're a superstar, but you generally don't want to go into an area guns blazing. You kind of want to see if you can get the lay of the land first. You know, it only takes a couple seconds, and then strategically kind of kill all the enemies before they gang up on you, right?
Yeah.
But if you're following the dude with the stash, then you don't have a choice because he runs fast.
And you lose him if you don't catch him?
Correct. Yeah, you have like a limited time before he hops into someone's car or hover car and just takes off, right?
Gotcha.
But
so I believe that you, like, if I'm not mistaken, because I think I remember you starting to play this, and I believe the blurb on the box from Paul Romalo was, imagine if Technocop was good.
Yeah.
But I noticed a distinct lack of a giant arm that takes up like a third of the screen. So I don't know how it could be good without that.
It's true. Huntdown does suffer for not having all that real estate taken up by a forearm. But it succeeds in spite of that. The other thing about this game, great bosses. The bosses are just slightly larger sprites. Like, it's weird. The game actually has fairly small sprites for this kind of game.
Yeah.
But they are very expressive and very fluid. The bosses are a little bit bigger, and so they're able to do a little bit more with them. And they're fantastic, man. Like, often they kind of have like 2 parts to them. Like you have the boss energy life meter, and then you kind of break them down to a certain point, and then it refills and they come back stronger or what have you. But they generally come back not just stronger, but they also look different, and funny things happen. Like there's one boss that has a flamethrower as his main weapon, and then when you break him down far enough, the flamethrower explodes, he becomes covered in fire, and then he just runs around the screen screaming while he's on fire.
Nice.
And you're like, holy shit, and you have to dodge him while he's running around. If other enemies pop up, they just get caught on fire. And I don't know. It was a really fun idea. Yeah. There's one guy who is like a Vietnam veteran who keeps seeing flashbacks, and he's like, oh, the horror, and he just starts firing indiscriminately at everything.
Just starts fucking blasting.
It's so ridiculous. But yeah,
I don't know, man. I keep getting these Running Man vibes with, you know, you got Fireball, you got Sub-Zero. If there's an electricity guy, then we got Dynamo.
Maybe there is. I haven't played far enough, but I really hope there is.
You just need a chainsaw guy, and you got Buzzsaw.
Yeah,
and then you should be good.
Yeah.
Just no Captain Freedom. Although maybe Captain Freedom is the Vietnam vet. I don't know.
Maybe I don't know.
So there's multiple characters, right? Like what are the differences between like each of the characters?
Well, one
Are
of them jumps really high. One of them floats in the air for a little bit. One of them is well-rounded. One of them is Toad, who runs really fast.
Were we not laughing soon enough? You had to really spell it out for us. One of them is Toad.
Right.
Basically, it's the special weapons. So every character can use a regular weapon. They all come equipped with a pistol. And the pistol is different depending on the character, but it has infinite ammo. It's kind of like your go-to. Along the way, you can pick up other weapons like submachine guns, grenade launchers, that kind of thing. Those have limited ammo. And then mapped to another button, you have your special weapon. So the robot character, oh man, I think his name is Mo Man, which is so great.
What?
Yeah, like picture Mo from like a lawnmower. Mo Man.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were talking about like the Simpsons character.
Yeah, no, not Mole Man. Mo Man. And his special weapon is 3 knives that he throws across the screen, and they're super strong.
Sick.
Anaconda has an axe that she throws in an arc, kind of like Simon Belmont, but like a little bit less of an arc. And the axe kind of has like heat-seeking properties, so to speak. Like it might follow an enemy. And then the other
it won't
dude
completely whiff every time you try to use it, like when I try to use it in Castlevania.
No, it's way better. It's way better. Okay. Yeah, it's far more predictable than the Castlevania axe. Gotcha. And the other guy whose name I can't remember, he has a boomerang. So he's got the Castlevania crucifix. So now that I think about it, these really are Castlevania weapons. Like you have the daggers and you have the axe and you have the crucifix. But they
got rid of the shitty holy water.
They really did, actually. I mean, you can pick up grenades in the game.
Fair.
Any kind of explosion in this game, by the way, immensely satisfying. Like the screen shakes, big explosion, screaming. You know, it's really it's really satisfying. Yeah, it's man, great music too. It's got like these dirty kind of like 80s synthesizers. Man, it's really cool.
How's it control?
Great. Yeah, no complaints about the controls. The only I say no complaints, but I have a complaint.
Right.
So it's got the typical now in these side-scrolling games where you press a button and the character does like a roll or a dash or anything with invincibility frames.
Yeah.
The best one I've ever seen of this is the roll in Dead Cells. The roll in Dead Cells feels so good. Like you run, roll, and then immediately the character gets up from the roll and keeps on running. There's no weird pause. It's so smooth. Oh my god, I want to play Dead Cells. This one has sort of like a dash. So you hit R1 and the character dashes and you can go through bullets and stuff like that. It just doesn't quite feel as good, and I can't put my finger on why. Maybe there's like a little bit of a stop. Maybe it has to do with the real estate on the screen. I can't quite figure it out. It's useful. Like I use it against bosses. Against regular enemies, not so much. But against bosses, I use it, and it's okay. That's the only kind of complaint I have about the controls. The other weird thing is you can like duck behind boxes and cars and use them as cover.
Oh, okay.
But it's not, I don't know. It's not really that well implemented. It just kind of feels like I'd rather just dodge and keep moving rather than come to a stop, duck behind a box, and then stand up and fire. So, but that's, I don't know, that one, that's pretty subjective. Like some people might kind of enjoy the idea of like ducking behind a box and standing up and shooting and so on. So
I only like ducking behind chest-high walls. It's the only thing I enjoy ducking behind.
Cover, man, it's such a good point though. Cover is so tricky in like a 2D run-and gun kind of thing, like because it just incites like a certain type of play, and it really might not be what's best for it. That kind of reminds me of Rise and Shine, which is another game that's like a 2D, a bit of a bullet hell and a bit of a run and gun, although it's more like a puzzle platformer. But that has like a 2D cover element where it's like take cover and shoot bullets from there, and I just found that so many times I was just jumping around and running around like a demon dodging bullets was just way more fun and way more and just way more effective. It was just more effective. Like sitting in one place with destructible cover, I was like, dude, I'm just gonna get blown up if I sit here.
That's exactly right. And the cover's not 100% either, right? Like you can still kind of get hit if the bullet goes or like just kind of grazes the cover or whatever. The one thing I will say about the cover that's really cool is that if you run and then press down, your character slides into the cover, which is very nice. It's very like movie like and kind of cool to do. But then you're stuck there, and so man, cool. Huntdown.
That's
dope.
Yeah, I can't wait to finish playing it. Every level is, it's not like every level's super different. They're all more or less the same. The enemies don't really do anything different. It's just that the levels are all short. They all look very different, and I always want to see what the next one looks like. You know what I mean? And what the music sounds like. So yeah, it just gets to the point. I just love it when I love when games get to the point. Like, just tell me what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Give me your best. Give me your best. Don't fuck around with box puzzles and police and stuff like that. Just do what you're here to do and do it well.
Yeah, you don't want a game that has 17 different mechanics that it doesn't implement well in any way.
No forearms, no nets.
No nets, please. No.
Although sadly, no children that you can make explode with a button.
It's true. There are.
You could pretend that the regular enemies are children.
Right.
What this game does have, though, instead of nets,
children of the streets. Sorry.
Where are the urchins?
Oh man. Yeah.
What this game does have, though, is Lamborghinis, like lots of Lamborghinis.
Hell yeah.
So like there are levels where your character enters the level in a Lamborghini doing like a side braking across the screen and taking out enemies. And then he jumps out of the Lamborghini, and then you continue the level from there. And you're just like,
awesome.
Yes.
Does this include the robot?
Car's fine.
Pardon? Arnie?
Does this include the robot? The robot also does it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I actually don't even know if he's a robot, honestly. Like, he has an English accent. I think he's a robot. Maybe he just has like a robot mask because he's wearing a trench coat,
like
right?
Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So he could just be 3 children stacked on top of each other.
For all we know.
Yep.
Oh my God. Could you imagine that's the ending? I would lose my mind. This is game of the year if that's the case.
Do you have to, once you pick a character, do you have to play through every level with that character, or do you just pick at the beginning of each level?
You can pick at the beginning of each level. Yeah.
That's dope. And I'm assuming you're playing on the Switch, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Is there a noticeable difference between handheld or on screen, or do you have a preference?
I don't want to play this game in handheld. The sprites are a bit small, and I have the option of playing on a large screen. So for now, what I'm doing is I'm playing RoboWars on my breaks at work on handheld.
Yeah,
and then I get home, I slap Huntdown in, and I play that on the big screen, and it's immensely satisfying.
Down.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sweet. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much. That sounds awesome. I guess I should talk about my game, if y'all don't mind.
No, man. Tell me.
But so one game I've been playing, I'm going to start with a good one. Although it's good, but there's kind of some provisos there, or rather, just it's an interesting game. So the first one I've been playing is called Umarangi Generation. So Umarangi Generation is a game by Origami Digital. And I want to say they're from out of New Zealand, but I'm not totally sure. I need to double check that. But so Umarangi Generation, essentially a game about you play as a photographer. And the game is basically Pokemon Snap Extreme Edition.
Yes.
Because essentially you're using like a real camera, and they basically have all the functionality. Well, I mean, as much as it can be digitally sort of, you have a
DSLR that you're fucking lugging around.
Yeah. So essentially they just drop you in areas that are just really visually interesting and full of things, and they just kind of tell you to go nuts.
Yeah.
You can take photographs. Now there is a time limit involved, but it's not like there's no real penalty for going over the time limit. The only thing that happens is if you take, like, they give you like a checklist, and basically if you fulfill all the requirements of the checklist and also fulfill the time requirement and finish the level on time, you kind of get some bonus unlocks that, you know, might be a new lens, or it might be like a new sort of platforming mechanic. So, you can like hover in the air and get a more interesting shot, or you can double jump now so you can like get to higher places a little more easily.
Oh wow.
But none of it is like integral. None of it is like super important. You can absolutely get all, you got to think a little bit. Like, it's definitely not easy. Like, some of the, you know, you have to explore and you have to think kind of creatively about how you're going to get a bunch of things in the shot sometimes, but none of it is like super drastic or important. The real kind of joy of the game is just kind of exploring the environments and just kind of soaking in the atmosphere of the game and what it's trying to say, but also just kind of playing around with the camera and getting some cool shots and just sort of experimenting with it. So it's funny because it's like, in one way, it's a really easy game for me to explain what you do in it. But on the other hand, it's like the game is such a vibe and it's so interesting, and I feel like talking about it, I'm just going to start talking for like an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be
you
really kind of concise.
were telling me about this game, and you showed me a trailer for it, and it really does. Like, it's very weird to say like a game does have just like a specific vibe, but it does.
Yeah, it's
like
very unique.
When you look at it, it's like, wow, this is fucking buck wild.
So what I think is interesting is that, like, I'm going to kind of spoil a bit of what the plot is, and because there is kind of, you know, like, the game in terms of its storytelling, it accomplishes almost all of its storytelling, pretty much all of its storytelling, just by kind of diegetic sound and just by things happening in the levels. None of it is like outright people telling you things. It's all just stuff in the levels. So I'm gonna sort of spoil it a bit, but again, I really think if this sounds interesting to you, to just get it, like, just go get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's
not
it's
expensive.
really interesting.
Like, full price, it's like
Not expensive.
15 Canadian, so you could probably pick it up for $1.
Yeah, and
they pay you to get it here.
And basically, like, it actually isn't a spoiler, like me telling you this, because the real kind of fun of the game of discovery is it's how it tells the story. It's how it's not actually what the story is. It's sort of how it tells it. And I'm kind of jumping ahead when I say this, but like, it's a game that's really stuck with me, and the more I think about it, the more I like it, and the more I think it's actually really incredible and kind of like a really special game. But basically the story is you're playing in this kind of like relatively, you know, cyberpunk, but it's definitely a little more grounded. It's a lot more grounded than your typical cyberpunk game in terms of being near future, but it's still definitely kind of a sci-fi aesthetic and sort of set in the future.
Yeah.
And essentially you're in this city, and you can tell kind of right away that something's wrong. Like, something's kind of off. Like, there's a bit of an oppressive feeling to kind of where you are. You know, you could see Tomcat fighters flying in the distance, kind of like, you know, rocketing over the sky. And there's these kind of strange little alien slugs that are kind of everywhere, and you're like, okay, like, what's going on? And as the game goes on, you basically find out that there are kaiju attacking this city.
Hell yeah.
And that there's kind of a military presence and a resistance that are sort of fighting against it, but also fighting against each other.
Okay.
And and it's all sort of taking place in this city. So essentially what the game is telling a story of, you know, the way the dev himself put it is, whose name is, by the way, I can't find his name. Damn it. Anyway, but Tally Faulkner, the director Tally Faulkner, his whole kind of vision behind the game, and I'm paraphrasing here, is essentially he wanted to make a game about the end of the world, and kind of about how, like, what a game that's dedicated to the generation that is the last generation. And so essentially you're already probably going, oh God, like this sounds like it's going to connect to a whole bunch of stuff that's happening right now. And it's like, yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why the game is so brilliant, I think, because everything, again, jumping ahead a bit, but everything it does in a way that is completely like a photographer. It does it in a way that it just shows you a snapshot of what this is. It shows you a snapshot of this is the world that you're in. There's no judgment. It's just like, this is what it is, and we're here and we're watching the end of the world. And let's take some pictures, I guess, because there's nothing else we can do. Like it's just going to happen. And so it's this really beautiful, it's like, the vibe of the game throughout is kind of melancholic, but it's also weirdly joyful. It's like weirdly optimistic. It's like, let's dance while the world's burning. Like we're here, and it's like, and there's something so beautiful about it, and it just kind of really gets to me sort of the more I think about it. But getting back, so kaiju are attacking, the military is fighting back, the people there's a resistance against the military because the military is imposing this, police state kind of stuff and curfews and making it so people can't just kind of live their lives, and like deceiving them, lying them about the gravity of the threat and all this stuff. Yeah. Does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
Like, so all this stuff is happening, and the whole time, again, the characters never talk in game. Like you don't talk, you don't interact. You just take pictures, and you kind of have a crew that sort of are there in every level. And one of the objectives is always to take a picture of everyone in your crew in the same shot. So sometimes, if you got to use a fisheye lens if you want to get everybody in the same shot and stuff. But essentially every level is just a snapshot of a different part of this society and how they're dealing with it. And it's just like, it's just kind of so well done, because by the end of the game, it's really created this whole atmosphere and sense of the world. And what I find really interesting is that, again, this isn't like the main game, and I say main game because there is some DLC for it that comes included with the game, especially if you get it on Switch. And I think if you get it on Steam, it just comes with it now too. Yeah. But basically, the main game, like I said, has this kind of melancholic, but sort of this joyful resistance, this feeling, this kind of Zen attitude of like, we're here and we're just going to sort of make the time we have, count and be here in the moment. That's why I'm taking these pictures. I want to capture this moment. I want to be here. And so it's kind of beautiful in that regard. And the DLC, though, I almost feel like it's not that it's that different. It's not. In terms of gameplay, it's the same. But in terms of tone, the DLC is really interesting because basically I think that Tally Faulkner must have been like, okay, some of you guys got it. Some of you guys didn't. So with the DLC, I'm going to hit you over the fucking head with what I'm trying to say. And basically, this, because the DLC is very in your face about these are issues that are happening right now. Like, they are problems. And like, yes, I'm using this whole kaiju thing as a fun kind of way to sort of propose it. But like, all this stuff is really happening. People are really rioting, and fighting for their rights and fighting against social injustice, against, these kind of like semi-fascist dictatorships that are imposing all this stuff on us and lying to us. And they're not just letting us kind of live our lives the way we want to live our lives. Like, this stuff is happening and people are in the streets and they're kind of fighting about it, and we got to do something about it. And so it leads to some really, the DLC is like really impactful, and it really, so I 100% recommend people just playing it as one big game, because the main game kind of leaves you with a certain feeling, and then it's kind of like the DLC is a nice just punch in the face after that to just kind of go like, and it's great, and they just complement each other really well. And there's this lovely stage where I'll spoil it a little bit. There's this lovely stage where you're at a protest rally, at a peaceful protest rally, and there's all this graffiti on the walls, and some of it is just like so amazing because you just feel like the people who made the game were literally like, we're just letting out everything we think about these people, and there's just so much, like of kind of anti-fascist sort of sentiment and like all this stuff, and it's just great. It's really, if anything, it's cool to see. Like, I certainly prescribe to those politics, but like, if anything, it's still cool to see just because it's a game that gives a shit. It's like a game that like, it says something.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. This game says something, and that's what I think is so cool, and that's really stuck with me, because there's a lot of games now, even the games that say they're trying to say something aren't, and they kind of stay on the fence. But Umarangi is not that game. Like, Umarangi is, especially with the DLC, like, it does it subtly in the main game, but in the DLC, it's really in your face. It's like, we're taking a stand here.
Yeah.
This is what we think is right, and like, we're not gonna just like, we're not gonna sort of dumb it down.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that at the end of the game, like, the kaiju don't leave after seeing all my sweet pictures of like stop signs and like people on the street.
You know what? I'm not even gonna make a joke about it, man. Because honestly, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how it ends, and it's funny because Arnie, I remember when I was telling you after I beat it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're probably thinking, wow, Mike sounds like he's so jazzed on this. But when he was telling me about it, he kind of sounded a little like, eh.
Yeah. And you at first were like, I don't know if you should play this. Like, I don't know if I actually recommend it.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by it's a game that stuck with me. It's like the longer after I play it, the more I'm like, actually, that game was fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually awesome.
I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
And so, but the reason why, it is a valid reason why I kind of felt like that at first, and why I told you that. And the reason is because, like, gameplay wise, the game is kind of clunky, like it's pretty clunky. The platforming is really like, like,
dude,
it's pretty rough.
But it's like
pretty
3D
rough.
first person with
Yeah.
PS1 era graphics. That's not even really a knock. Like, it's kind of a look. It's kind of a throwback. It's not meant to look like shit.
It's back now. People like it again.
For the purpose of platforming, it's.
And by nature,
fan.
the game has to be cluttered, right?
Yeah.
Like, by nature, because you want to create. You don't want it to be too sparse, because you want to create cool moments to take pictures. But the problem with that is that you're always bumping into things, and you never know, like. You're always like, oh, okay, I guess I can't go that way. I can go this way. Ah, crap. Like, so there's a lot of that. And sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's part of the puzzle, and it's kind of fun to figure out. But, like, that's really the only thing I can say, because some people might say, well, it's kind of short too. There's only like.
Oh, thank God!
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah,
Fun.
no, I know,
Awesome.
I know, we love that. But I think with the DLC, there's maybe 10, 12 stages.
Perfect.
And if you know what you're doing, you can beat them in like 10 minutes each. But again, like, that's kind of not the point. Like, the point of the game. The point of the game is to kind of really experience this vibe and figure out the story it's trying to tell, because there's all kinds of little hints that there's a lot more going on, not just holistically from a big point of view, but also there's little personal stories in there too.
Yeah.
That you can see if you're paying attention. So it's kind of neat. And
did you find that the game ignited any interest in photography? Because the photography aspect of it looks very, very detailed and realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I don't think you could get any more. I don't think you could get any more like using an actual camera in a video game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much more you could do it. Like, and that to me is in terms of the gameplay and the design, that's a huge triumph. And so if you're at all into cameras and photography, like, you're probably playing it already or have it already, like, but you should, because like it's easily the best at that, and I don't think that can be discounted. But I also think if you're not you know, like if you don't vibe with it, because I was curious about it, but it never really took off for me. I still never really turned into, ooh, I'm gonna stay here for an hour and just take cool pictures. Like that's still not what happened with me. It was more for the story and progression.
Yeah.
But I could see someone who's really into photography. I could see them spending like 2 hours just jumping around trying to find, oh man, I bet I could get that shot.
Yeah.
And then they just try to find out how to do it. So it's really cool. I want to just give a special shout out to the audio in the game, specifically the music is absolutely phenomenal. So the music is done by Thor High Heels, who some people might know. He has a YouTube channel and he does kind of music and he's done a couple other albums, but this soundtrack is kind of the first time that I actually knew that he was doing actual kind of projects and putting it out himself. And it's actually amazing. Like it's not just good like, oh, this is kind of cool, you know, nice first try. Like it's like, no, this is like, it's really good.
Yeah.
Like as someone who listens to electronic music, like it's really good. And it really creates this vibe of like the game is definitely going for this jet set radio. You feel like, is this jet set radio with a camera? And it's like, it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It kind of channels that, especially when you think of the checklists and the things you got to do. But Thor High Heels, he just annihilates it out of the park. Like it's this mix of like trap beats and like rap and of like also like dub step is in there. Not dubstep. Dub is in there. I got to make that distinction. And like, and like, you know, elements of like drill but also vaporwave. And he even puts in some like Genesis chiptune stuff in there that sounds straight out of like say a Mega Drive game. It's just brilliant. And
it's on sale right now on Steam too. So
also funny because the whole game is the underlying theme of the game soundtrack is that it's a DJ playing it, DJ Tariq, who's a dolphin like in Sequest, who's been hooked up with like a brain thing so he can talk, but he talks in like this robot voice.
He talks through his
all
funky
like,
beats.
Hello, it is DJ Tariq. Like, we are here and all going to die, but no matter, let us dance. You know, like it's great. Like, so the soundtrack, highly recommended. And yeah, it's just a really cool game, you know, and it's just the kind of thing that like I love that somebody had the guts to kind of make it and to really make a statement and to really come after and not to go on a soapbox too much, but to really go after assholes out there who are really fucking it up for everybody. And, you know, not only just in the world at large, but also the gaming community itself. You know, like they go after people, you know, because they're just like, we're not afraid of you, you know, like you're a bunch of cowards hiding behind keyboards. We don't give a shit, you know, and it's like, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right on, man.
So nice. I think that's about as good a time as any to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Paul about another game that he's been playing lately. And we're back. We're going to start off this time with Paul. Paul, tell me, what is another game that you have been playing lately?
I've been playing a game that is thanks to our Region Free Gamers Secret Santa that we had back in December.
Woohoo!
And I wasn't aware of the rules entirely for Secret Santa. and Ozzy, I think, agreed with me on this, which made me feel much better. Anytime Ozzy agrees with me, it's like this badge that I've earned, like a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Ozzy agrees. I must be on the right track.
Senpai noticed me.
So yeah, I thought we get our gift, and then, like, you know, the sender reveals who they are. But some people are like,
Right.
no, I thought Santa stays secret like forever, and you take it to your grave. But
That's right.
so
And when you die, you're haunted by all the gift givers that never knew who you were. And like,
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right? So Inertial Drift was sent to me by dear friend Jay, regular listener of the
Eurobeat
show.
intensifies.
Eurobeat. Oh my
Hey.
god, yes. And man, it is something. I kind of fell off of the arcade racer, and this game really actually kind of brought me right back to it. So this one was released a couple years ago, September 2020, I think. Also
Yeah.
available, like Huntdown that I was talking about earlier, also available on all platforms. I actually played it on the PlayStation 5. It's a PS4 game, but I played it on the PS5. So I couldn't tell you, if there's any difference in loading times or whatnot. It was all pretty quick and seamless. This one developed by Level 91 Entertainment out of Northern Ireland.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying now playing all these games that are made by outfits, all around the world, whether it's New Zealand or now Northern Ireland, Hungary, etc., etc. Like, we're really kind of entering an age where it's not just Japan, USA. And I'm kind of enjoying it. So, yeah, they kind of wanted to make a game that was new but familiar, with depth, and more importantly, feel and style over realism, which they really, really kind of nailed. Like, realism, forget it in this game. You're not getting that. You're getting cel shaded cars with kind of like this vaporwave aesthetic that's really cool.
Nice.
I love cel shaded virtually anything, man. Like, just
Yeah.
God, if we just had nothing but cel shaded games, I think I wouldn't complain. But yeah, like in your typical, I mean, just judging from the name of the game, Inertial Drift, you can imagine what kind of like the main mechanic of the game is, and that's drifting your vehicle in order to perform better. And usually when you play kind of an arcade racer, like, you've got your steering and then you steer hard to the left or right, hit the brake or tap the brake, and then you kind of start drifting, right? Or you're just going too fast, kind of lose control a little bit, start drifting.
Spin out.
Yeah, and you kind of like fight to regain it, like you counter steer and go on, right? And oftentimes it's, I don't know, like cumbersome. I don't know if cumbersome is the word, because like it's not like arcade racers aren't fun, but what Inertial Drift does is it makes this completely new control scheme for drifting. So your left stick is used to steer, so you just kind of steer back and forth. And if you want to enter a drift, then you use the left control stick, right? And as soon as you tap the left the left for steering, the right for drifting. So as soon as you tap I know, right? You guys are looking at me. So as soon as you tap the right control stick to the left or right, then you drift in that direction. And within like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And then once you get it, you're drifting all over the place. And like, and you can just, and then oh my God, and then it feels like Initial D, which is the whole fucking point. It's called Inertial Drift.
Yeah.
Like the whole point is,
I was gonna say it's not a coincidence that it's ID. Like,
It's
yeah,
so good.
no.
Yeah,
And the game really winks to it really winks at Initial D a lot. Like everything from the trophy names and so on and so forth. But like, almost right away, you're like hugging the inside of the track with the nose of your car, like inches from the wall. And you're like, oh my God, this is just like Initial D. Like it looks so cool, right? Like in real life, drifting is not the most efficient way to make your way around corners, right?
yes.
No.
But again, this is style over realism, and drifting's
right.
fucking cool. And that's what was happening. I was doing cool shit in a car. So yeah, man, like that control scheme just like single-handedly just makes this game. It's such a brilliant idea. I absolutely love it. There's it's just like your kind of typical racing game. There's like, arcade mode, time attack mode, versus mode, stuff like that. There is a story mode,
Really?
There is a story mode. Yeah, again, like we're talking initial.
You got to
right?
find out why you're drifting inertially.
Exactly, dude. These mysteries must not remain unsolved.
And like, are you competing against your rival, but also your best friend?
See,
no, it's the mysterious racer X, your brother.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing about it, because the story mode's really weird, and it's simultaneously disappointing and refreshing.
Okay.
So
I'm intrigued.
Like flat sprite, basically.
That's not refreshing at all.
Yeah.
It is for me.
Swing and a miss.
That burst of
Swing and a
lemon
miss on
lime
that
flavor.
Yeah, no, we're gonna forget that. We're gonna leave it in because it's embarrassing for you. But,
Yep.
But so okay, I'll start with the refreshing part. The refreshing part is that it's very progressive, right? Like there are equal amounts of male and female racers. You know, multiple races are represented, and it's also very positive. Like everybody's just kind of there, and they're all encouraging each other to be better. So like there's
fucking bullshit.
It's like the great British drift off.
Yes, indeed. See, Arnie, that's how you make a joke. Not flat sprite.
Flat sprite.
So there's one guy who he just kind of likes it, right? But as he progresses through the story, he discovers, hey, I actually do want to compete. I don't just want to be a lazy piece of shit who enjoys racing. And then there's another character who thinks she's really good, but learns that there's always more to learn. And so it's like, you know what I mean? It's simultaneously, and like they even use modern pronouns. Like there's some people who use they to refer to themselves, and some people are so like, you know, it's kind of all rather new and positive and wholesome, and yet this is a game that clearly takes a cue from Initial D, and like I really wanted conflict. Like I really wanted, wanted to race.
Yeah,
they
couldn't put one fucking keyboard warrior in there that's just
like,
a fucking asshole to everybody.
I'm saying, right? Like I really wanted to like smack down some shit talker on the track, right?
Yeah.
And also like it's kind of, and some of the dialogue is a little bit, it doesn't jive with the actual race itself. Like there will be a race where like I just destroyed my opponent. Right? Like I beat them by 15 seconds or whatever. They weren't even close. And then after the race, they're like, you know, wow, you did really well. And my character is like, yeah, you did too. That I really thought it was. And it's like, at no point in that race did I ever think you were going to beat me. Right?
Yeah.
So like the encouraging talk is like, you know, that doesn't quite mesh with what I was feeling during the race.
Yeah.
What I was feeling during the race was, you're garbage. I'm going to ruin you. Like, I'm so far ahead. This is so embarrassing for you.
I will fucking end your life and your career.
Like, you'll never come back. You can't show your face here again, right? Just give me your pink slips and move on.
That's
but,
right.
like, then after the race, they're all happy with each other and so on. I'm like, okay, that's nice. You know,
I feel like if you read it as passive aggression the entire game, it'll give you more of what you want.
Mind blowing.
Like, if you read all the text as, like, sarcastic, then you'll get the conflict that you want.
Dude, I'm so happy you said this, because when you beat the game, they unlock extra crispy mode, which is just like a harder difficulty, but like with a great name. And you get a trophy for beating story mode on extra crispy. So now you've given me a reason to go back and replay the game on extra crispy.
When you finish when you finish a race and it's like, wow, you did a really good job.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you right now.
I can't wait. I might even like record myself saying the lines and just share them on Discord.
Yeah,
just so you guys can get like an idea of what the flavor's like. So yeah, it's weird, man. Like the story mode it's I don't know what to tell you. It was refreshing and also kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
but like
that's cool.
Yeah.
I find it interesting what you said right at the beginning about, you know, arcade racer sort of being that genre that you've sort of fallen out of a little bit, and And I want to say that it's not so much as you've fallen out of it as like this fucking genre is just on life support and has been for a minute. But like recently, because it made me think when I first saw you playing it, it made me think of Horizon Chase Turbo,
Yes.
which is another really fun like arcadey racer that came out like not that long ago.
Yeah.
Mike does not look like he enjoyed Horizon Chase Turbo very much.
Oh no, I don't know what it is. I actually don't know what it is.
Okay. I
His
saw you
face
over
was
there
perplexed,
looking at
not
me
upset.
like oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I think Cruisin' actually had like a new entry come out on the Switch like not that long ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's moving in the right direction, but I'm happy to see that like these games are still fun because you kind of need this in there.
You just
Like,
need
I
to
kinda,
innovate.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what it comes down to, right? Like, you can't just make an arcade racer without anything to distinguish it. That's why Burnout was so successful and so much fun. Because
Yeah.
Burnout, the point was to crash and like
Was
it
to
was
fucking-
awesome. Yeah. And this is the most fun
man.
I've had with this kind of game since trying Burnout, right? So
Dude.
yeah, it's funny. Like the music in the game is not my bag, not terribly noteworthy, but
Hmm.
then again, like the track design is fucking top tier. Like
Yeah.
there's only 5 tracks,
Mhm.
but at no point did I ever think like, man, I really need more tracks. Like it's just that the tracks are they're so well designed. It's great. And
Yeah.
some of them are circuits. So like you go in a loop several times. There's one track that takes about 5 minutes to complete, and it's just straight from the top of a hill to the bottom of a hill with all these turns and
Nice.
stuff. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
Initial D, right? So there's definitely some variety there. There's snow levels, a city level, and a lakeside level, and that kind of stuff. They all look they're pretty, man. They're pretty, they're distinctive. Character designs are a little bit kind of bland. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like this kind of like, I don't know, almost lazy vector graphic,
Yeah.
like comic book characters. Not the best, but you know, that's a small gripe, man.
Now
Like,
I have one last question.
Yeah.
Because this game is, throwing odes to Initial D, and just because it's an arcade racer, what's the music situation like?
well, that's the thing, right? Like you can't see, here's the thing, you can't have overt Dave Rogers zero beat in this game. Because then it's very, very much like Initial D and not its own thing, right? And I don't want that either.
Mhm.
Like, if you're gonna give me an Initial D game, just use the license and give me an Initial D game, right? So, but at the same time, like, it's not exactly pulse pounding. You know what I mean? A lot of it's kind of like just casual, kind of. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not really adding any kind of blood boiling passion to the proceedings if
Gotcha.
that's what
so
you're
you
asking.
mute it and put your own blood boiling
That's what
electro
I should
dance
have done.
tracks on there.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't allow you that option. But if I just like mute it and then play it,
Yeah.
on my phone,
Just go to the options, turn the music all the way down, and then just
Yeah.
And then
It
make your
plays on Spotify.
own funky beat plaplaylist that you
That's
put on.
kinda-
Do you like my car?
yeah,
Just gonna,
exactly. Man, when we used to play Capcom SNK 2, we used to play it at a buddy's place, and the last match of the night, we'd mute the music. I think you actually didn't have that option back then. I think you'd have to mute the game, but he'd put on Eye of
Yeah.
the Tiger, and it was
Perfect.
for the last match of the night. It was always the fucking best. Like that was always the one. But yeah,
My favorite story of yours like that is when you were playing Magic the Gathering and you would sing Hearts on Fire anytime someone was about to win
Yeah.
or something.
oh yeah, yeah, man,
So good.
strong desire.
What a good fucking
Uh,
song.
It's not a podcast. It's not a podcast unless Paul and I are outing ourselves as very old men.
As old men. But yeah, just to wrap it up here on Inertial Drift, there are different cars too. Like it's not just kind of the same control scheme, so to speak. You've got, I think, like four different archetypes.
You've got your Honda Eclipse, you've got your Toyota Celica, you've got your...
They feel significantly different.
Yeah, they do. There aren't any
Yeah.
licensed cars, Arnie, but
Yeah.
they do feel different. Like entering a drift with each of them is a little bit different. Controlling the drift is a little bit different with each of them. Mm-hmm. And I actually ended up stopping playing because one of them I found just a little bit too like the problem here is that they start you off with the best car that is the easiest to control, right?
Okay.
Like with this particular car, you are instantly in it and instantly controlling perfectly, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're hugging the guardrail, your nose is just a few centimeters from it. It's beautiful. And then you move on to these other cars and it's like taming a wild stallion. It's like, whoa, what the fuck, right? And some of them are more fun to master than others. Like there's one in particular I'm thinking of where so like if you're drifting and you tap the brake, it just sends you into a more pronounced drift generally, right? Yeah. Which is kind of what you need. You need to slow down and that's all well and good. But there's one car in particular where if you hit the brake, it just slows the car down. It doesn't put you in a drift. And what you have to do is you have to manipulate the accelerator to drift instead of the brake. And it almost becomes like an entirely different game. And I found that car very, very frustrating to control. And so I was like, okay, you know, I've completed the story mode. I've had my fun. I'm on this car now. I think we're good. Good. But, you know, if you enjoy mastering all the different stuff, there's definitely some longevity to the game there if you want it. So
I did want to ask one last thing, which is that is it kind of an overhead view? Is it sort of like isometric? Or is it like a cockpit view? Can you switch views?
You can't go into cockpit view. It's strictly third person behind the car.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
But it doesn't suffer for it. I prefer generally in my racing games, I prefer cockpit view, but not once during this game. Here's the thing: you want to see the nose of your car hugging the guardrail. That's the point, right? Like, is just seeing visually what your car is doing and thinking this looks awesome. So there wasn't a point in the game where I wished I was behind the wheel, because then you're just kind of losing that visual delight of
Did you say you prefer cockpit view normally?
Generally, yeah.
That's insane to me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Depends on the game, but usually me too.
Yeah, depends on the game, but usually
cockpit view is the coolest view, but I always feel very uncomfortable because I feel like I've lost sort of a range of sight. You know, I like being behind the car and seeing everything going on.
Yeah.
It depends on the game. Again, it kind of depends on the game. Like, I think when I was playing like Horizon, I was gonna say Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, what the fuck am I saying? Oh, why am I blanking here?
Name. Just make up a name.
It's not Horizon Chase Turbo. I know that.
No, it's the god damn, man. It's
Forza
the
Horizon?
Microsoft. Yes, Forza Horizon.
Ooh,
so
good
like
job,
playing
Arnie.
Forza Horizon, when I was playing Forza Horizon, I play in cockpit just because it's so kind of immersive and high fidelity visuals.
Yeah, that shit is beautiful.
But but playing Wipeout, it's like I like playing cockpit and Wipeout, but it's also kind of like man, it it really helps to just see your ship and see the see it, like, because it's so fiddly and delicate and like a straight shot. It's like, you really want to see kind of where your sort of tails are.
I switched to cockpit view while I was playing Wipeout Omega Collection on VR, and I don't think I've ever come closer to having a panic attack than in that moment.
Oh yeah,
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anyhow,
thank you. And I'm not going to pick on Arnie again, and I'll go next. But the other game that I've been playing, and I was in a debate about whether I was going to talk about this game or talk about Mortal Shell, and I've decided I'm going to talk about this game just because it got such a funny reaction from you guys when it came up, which is Going Under. Yeah. So Going Under is a game that's made by Aggro Crab. It was published by Team 17. It came out
mark of quality right there, published by Team 17.
Yeah.
Hey, man, they have a style.
I know.
They do. So Aggro Crab is made up of a bunch of people, but it looks like the main leads are Caitlin Pollock, Joanna Lynn, and Sam Strick. I believe they're all from Seattle, and that's kind of apparent. I bought the physical edition of this that came out recently, and it has a wonderful full color manual that has a whole bunch of concept art and little behind the scenes tidbits from sort of the main devs and creators of it. It's delightful, and they basically talk about what this game is, and I'll use this as a segue to talk about the concept. The game is basically a game where you play as a unpaid intern who just got a job at a place called Cubicle, and Cubicle is essentially an analog, like it looks kind of like Amazon or whatever. And essentially you're in this city called Neo Cascadia, which is essentially a surrogate for Seattle. Okay. And that's what it says in the manual. They say, like, we're all from Seattle, and we love Seattle, and it's full of amazing people, but it's also got kind of an underside, no pun intended, that people don't sort of like to talk about. Yep. And that's kind of what we're kind of playfully paying it, kind of pointing and laughing at in this game. And so essentially you play as this unpaid intern named Jackie Fiasco. And you start working. Name. So you've worked at this place. You're working at this place called Fizzle, which has just been acquired by Cubicle. And Fizzle is a company that does, I think it's flavored sparkling water, but it's also a meal replacement.
It's fucking Soylent, like it is.
So it's like a meal. So it's like Soylent except fizzy. Yeah. Okay, and so again, the whole point of the game, like, we're already kind of giggling, and that's the point of the game. Yeah. The game is kind of a satire of all this stuff in the tech industry, startup culture, tech culture, video game culture, like, and so it kind of. There's an element I'm really going to try to avoid it, but it hits close to home. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of things that hit close to home when I play this game, because I was involved with tech culture and startup culture and stuff like this in Toronto for almost a decade. So a lot of it hits close to home. I was playing this right when it came out, and that was right around the time that things were really not great, like, in terms of in terms of sort of lockdown and things in COVID happening and other things kind of getting out of whack. Yeah. And so it was just kind of a really funny mix of a bunch of things happening at once. But essentially, I'm gonna fuck all that. Let's just talk about the game. So sorry, didn't mean to go on that little diatribe. Let's just go. But essentially, you play as Jackie. And the concept is that you get there on your first day, and the project manager, Marv, is like, hey, thanks for coming. And she's like, yeah, I can't wait to get started. I'm a marketing intern. This is going to be great. And they're like,
first mistake, Jackie. Never be excited.
What I need you to do first is what I need you to do first is I need you to go in this tunnel, because everything is slides. It's just like, it's making fun of that Google culture where there's slides everywhere. So it's like, go on this slide, and I need you to go into the basement and kill all these goblins. Okay, bye. And she's like, what are you talking about? And so you basically find out that what ends up happening when a company goes under is they literally go underground. Okay, the whole Cubicle building falls into the ground. Incredible. And everyone down there is quote unquote dead, and they kind of transform into these monsters that are somehow kind of like related to what they were doing as a company.
Fair. Okay.
So each of the floors, one floor is called Joblin, and it's basically Joblin is basically an app. It's kind of like Fiverr except an app. So the whole thing was like, sorry, I'm jumping around, but I love it. The CEO for Fizzle, he's the prototypical nice guy, but a total fucking himbo, but a nice guy, but he's just kind of a fuckboy, but full of bluster and confidence. But you're just like, oh my god, dude. And he's just full of like wisdom, where he's just like, yeah, it's like this mindfulness stuff that I'm doing. It's like, I check it out every time I listen to my podcast. I try to crush like 3 a day. Like, yeah, it's like my new meditation app. And so he'll always give you the rundown on each of the places. So he'll be like, oh, Joblin are awesome. Like, basically it was this app that people made where you had to like, it was people would run errands for you. You could just like call someone up, and they would come over and they would do whatever you need. And they were like, but the good thing is like, they made sure that it was fair and that not everybody got to pick their jobs. So you never knew what you were gonna do. You just had to show up and do it. Isn't that great?
Oh
and they're
my
like,
God.
no, it's not.
It's fucked
awful.
up how
Like,
this is gonna be a real thing in like 3 years.
Dude, it's not.
Guaranteed.
It didn't
Like-
sound completely unrealistic.
That's the thing. It's like it's poking fun
This
at
is
the gig
currently
economy.
being beta tested in like a third
Yeah,
world country
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, and I guarantee the people making the game they knew that.
Yeah.
They knew, they were like, when we're gonna make this, somebody is gonna play this and go, that's actually
That's
a
a
really,
really good
Like,
idea.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so they knew that too, like, because they're from that culture. But so it's poking fun at the gig economy, obviously,
Yeah.
in this one. And the bad guy, the big boss, is this guy called the Caffeine.
That's right.
And like all of everything that he's saying is like, he's all like, we gotta maximize hustle.
That's right.
We gotta eliminate potential blockers.
Hell
You're a
yeah.
potential blocker, and all this stuff. So it's
You never see him at
It's
the
all
club, but he never sees you at the bank,
Yeah.
bro. Like
exactly. And so the second level, and this isn't a spoiler because you run into them almost immediately. The second one is Winky Dink, and it's basically Tinder, except that the gimmick there is that you can only communicate using emojis.
also another
and
thing that's
like
absolutely
also
gonna be
another-
real.
yeah.
absolutely gonna
yeah.
happen. It's 100% gonna happen. And the last one is and I should say, this is where it gets, again, like, I guess I'm all about games with something to say. Like the big boss in that stage, his whole thing is like, his name is literally Hover Hands. So his whole thing is he creates this awful atmosphere where you feel really like, like you're being watched all the time, and like you can't sort of speak out.
That's weird.
And then
I've
finally-
never heard of that.
Yeah, not in the game industry.
I
no
just
way.
assumed it was going to be like sexual harassment, man. When you said hover hands,
It's just gonna be a picture of Bobby.
Oh, it is.
Kotick
I mean, it
just
is.
walking
That's
around.
part of it,
Oh,
right?
okay, good.
Like that's part of it. And the last one is Arnie's favorite, Styx Coin.
That's right.
Which is basically, at that point, NFTs were still just a little glimmer in Daddy's eye, but
It was
Styx
alive
Coin-
and well.
Crypto was alive and well when they were making this. And so the whole thing is about, and that one is set up, it looks like a mine shaft because they're data mining.
sure, yeah.
And they're all skeleton kind of miners, and the bad guy is named Hustlebones. And you basically you basically find out Hustlebones is just this kid who's really into who's really into Bitcoin. And it's great because there's vendors in the dungeons, and the vendor for the Bitcoin one, it's like this guy. So there's always one guy stands up on one side, and you can buy things with dollars. But then when you go to the other side, he goes down, and another guy comes up wearing glasses, but it's the same guy, and he's selling it with Bitcoin.
Incredible.
Okay.
And so the Bitcoin guy, when you talk to him, he's like, Bitcoin's the future. What are you doing using this fucking paper money? It's worthless. Like, you got to get on the train or the train's going to leave you behind. But if you talk to the other guy, he's like, don't listen to that guy, man. He's totally full of shit. Like I bought all this Bitcoin and it's worthless. You need cash. So it's just full of stuff like that. And I guess I should talk about what the fuck you do in the game, huh? Yeah. So essentially, the game is a roguelike. It's a roguelike where it's like a melee, it's like a third-person camera. You have full control of the camera. And it's essentially like a brawler type melee combat game. There are some projectile weapons, but it's mostly melee combat. And it's a roguelike, and you just kind of go from room to room. If you ever played a roguelike, you'll know right away how it works.
Yeah.
And you can find skills that are part of your, that are like on LinkedIn. You get endorsed for skills.
It's fucking incredible.
And then you max out those skills. All of them have pun names. All of them have beautiful, like punny names, and you get endorsed for skills, and those skills are dropped into the dungeons randomly, as well as the items and other buffs. There's shops, and you can buy like health buffs and skills from the shops and weapons. So like all of that, it's like actually pretty standard. Like none of it they just change the facade. Like it's just got this satirical veneer over it. But the actual mechanics and everything aren't very different or special or interesting.
Yeah.
I think they even have the whole mechanic of like, okay, if you kill like five guys with a baseball bat in this run, that's a task done. But the way they do it is you pick mentors. So the staff at Fizzle, they all serve as your mentors. So you pick a mentor and they have tasks for you to do.
Yeah.
And if you do all the tasks, then you go up a level with that mentor.
You get a promotion. And
with every level of mentor you get another little perk.
Right.
So one of the perks might be, I mean, I'll just ruin the best one. If you get the CEO's top tier perk, you get his whip. So he's like, you can ride my whip. And so you're riding this little mini car when it starts, and you're like, like driving around, like running it. It's so funny. So stupid. And so basically, like, I should also. So that's the thing, is that there's really
when
not.
You said you get his whip, I just thought of the physical whip he uses to like meet his employees.
Yeah, ride the whip. You ride the whip, man. Ghost ride the whip. So, but basically, yeah, like there's not much to say in terms of like what it does differently in terms of mechanics. Where the game shines, and it's absolutely the presentation and the concept, like that's, and the charm, the personality, because that is like a 10. Like if you ask me, like in terms of everything, and I know that's a backhanded compliment, and I know, and that's actually where I'm going with this, but like outside of the gameplay and kind of the rudimentary functional design, the game's a 10.
Yeah. Like
in terms of production, the charm is there. It's fantastic. Like the characters are lovely. They're funny. They're well written. There's so many moments that all the moments are funny. Jackie is an amazing character who at once is like completely playing that unpaid intern fish out of water.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she suffers no fools, and she's also like way smarter than they typically make characters like this, because of course she is, right? Like, because she should be. And so there's a bunch of, like, what I mean, for example, is that typically in one of these games, someone might say, aha, this was my plan all along. And the person goes, what? But Jackie is the character that'll go, yeah, dude, I knew the whole time. Like, can we just fucking get on with this? Like, and so it's great because it's just like, so, but the thing is the problem with the game. Oh, I should also say the presentation is kind of odd. Like some people might like all of the presentation is done. You look at the key art and it's beautiful. It's this animated.
Yeah, the visuals are really gorgeous.
Yeah, like the key art for the game is just gorgeous. Like I want a cartoon of it so bad. Like it would be amazing. When you play the actual game, and it definitely is intentional, they kind of use this really low poly. Everybody looks like a tube. Like monster. They look like those, and it sounds awful, but it's well done. It's good. It's colorful. Expressive. The music is like, if you've ever seen, and the thing is, it's kind of emulating, I don't know what they call it, but like if you've ever seen those ads for like apps and like Google ads where they have like characters with noodle arms and squiggly, like it's like very corporate look and sound. The game emulates it perfectly, like to the point where it's kind of creepy. And the music too it's like when you start listening to the opening cutscene, it's got that, oh my god, it sounds like you're watching an airport security video.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's so good. It's perfect. Like the music is perfect. But then what they always do is there's always something that goes off, like in it.
Yeah.
Just to show that, hey, it's a joke, remember? Like they purposely don't fully commit.
Yeah.
And so again, presentation, all that stuff, brilliant. The only issue with the game, and the reason why it's tough to recommend in some ways, unless you love the concept, is that I just don't think the gameplay is tight enough to support how difficult the game gets. And I know how I sound. People are going to go, oh, get good. But like, the game is way too hard. Put another way, the game is way too hard for the amount of control and fluidity that you actually have. The game feels really like, what's the word? It feels really loose.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the game feeling kind of loose and wacky,
like floaty,
and things exploding. That's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But when you kind of demand a high skill ceiling and high performance, like a lot of roguelikes do, it kind of falls apart because you start to feel like, well, the controls aren't tight enough and the systems aren't tight enough for me to want to be really good at this.
Yeah.
I don't understand how to be better at this game. Like, I don't get it. Like, you just get overwhelmed and you get your ass kicked. Like, you just get mobbed. And so it's tricky. It's a tricky game. There is a easy mode that they added, basically, but honestly, even on the easy mode, like, I had trouble like near the end, and I was just like, wow, okay. Like, so it's a weird, questionable call, because to me, I think the presentation's where it shines.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel like I think this would be a bigger success story if you guys just opened it up and you guys didn't care so much about making the game hard and padding out the game length that way like you do with roguelikes. There's enough here to just be a fun game that someone can pick up and play. In fact, I would say, aside the difficulty, it's a great way to like intro yourself to roguelikes and how they work, like the basic game flow. And so, yeah, I mean, that's going under. Like, I love the game, but I also kind of, it also frustrates me at the same time.
Yeah, when you have presentation that good, you kind of want to just keep moving people along so they get to see more of it. Yeah. You don't want them to get stuck in one place doing the same thing too long.
Yeah.
I should say, the last thing I'll say is they did add DLC along with the easy mode. Yeah, naturally, I mean, classic indie game dev. They added DLC, which is great, but the stuff they add is like, hey, we made it even harder.
Of course. Yeah.
Fuck, and so the DLC is even more difficult, but it is, I mean,
much like
funny.
The corporate ladder, which gets...
Yes, well, funny you mentioned that. The DLC is themed off imposter...
It's themed off...
Yeah, it's themed off imposter syndrome. So you actually go in the mirror and fight your imposter, who's this negative version of you, and she spends the whole time basically saying, like, you're not good enough. Like, you can't do this. What are you doing? Who are you trying to kid? Like, and everything. So it's that great kind of, and they have great banter back and forth and everything. But I can't, but in terms of the presentation and in terms of the characters, I can't love it enough. Like, it's so charming and fun, and more importantly, the devs just feel like they really have their hearts in the right place. Like, when you read the manual, you just feel like, hey man, like, I hope they make more games.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to see more. But yeah. Arnie, take us home. What's the last game that you've been playing lately?
I don't have a cool indie game like you guys do. So this is going to be a hard turn, but I haven't been playing because I fucking finished it, bitch. Metroid Zero Mission.
Oh.
A game that I've been wanting to play for years, considering that my intro to Metroid was Fusion. I was like, oh, maybe I should play the other Game Boy Advance Metroid game. I might enjoy that. And guess what? I did. It's going against... Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, man, it looks so good. I'll be honest with you. Until you mentioned it, as a general rule, I don't really have too much time for Game Boy Advance games. Yeah. The system just kind of feels a little bit too underpowered for a lot of what they're trying to do, and I think I'm wrong because I'm looking at some of these games, and Metroid Zero Mission is a prime example. I'm looking at that game and I'm like, holy shit, man, this is an achievement.
Yeah, it's great. The thing about GBA games for me is, like, I love playing them on a bigger screen. Like, if I have like a Game Boy Advance player, or I have like a Retron 5, like, I'm always going to play it that way. Because it was such a Super Nintendo machine, I'm like, it works, like, it works to play Golden Sun or Breath of Fire or Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced on, like, a bigger screen instead of hunching over my SP and, like, destroying my fucking vertebrae.
Oh my god, which I used to do, like, and didn't think twice. Think twice, but yeah.
Well, before the SP, we didn't even have the backlit screen, so you had to, like, also angle yourself to, like, catch the light.
I didn't even bother. I
did
until the SP. I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Unlike Mike's game, Metroid Zero Mission, surprisingly easy. I felt like it did not feel hard. The only time I was like, oh, this is kind of tricky, was fighting Mother Brain. But like even fucking Ripley, is that his name?
Mhm.
Yeah. Ridley, sorry.
Ridley.
That's right. Definitely not copyright Ripley. That's not. You gotta change the one letter.
Yeah.
Even him, who usually kicks my ass in every other Metroid game I've played, I was like, I could just spam missiles at this guy and I have enough health that he won't kill me before he dies.
Yeah.
So it's good. Kraid, always great. My favorite.
Yeah.
He's so doofy looking every fucking time I fight him. Like, whoever designed this monster is a genius. But it's just, it really did a good job of translating the first Metroid, a game that I have tried to play before and just can't, like, it doesn't work for me. I'm just like, I get into it for like an hour or two and I'm like, I'm lost. There's no map. Like, I'm angry. I keep dying over and over again.
I know, the patience just isn't there for that game now. Like,
yeah, it's rough.
It's a good looking game, the original Metroid, and it's extremely playable even now.
Very atmospheric too, which
Very
is weird for an NES game.
Absolutely. But then you get lost and it's like, fuck, man, I gotta go to work or I gotta make dinner.
Yeah.
And it's just not, you just don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, by all things that a remake or, you know, remaster should do, like, this game ticks all the boxes. Like, the weapons feel good, the upgrading is always very satisfying, like the exploration is well rewarded. I thought I had gotten a bunch of stuff and I still only got like 60% of things when I finished. But it was satisfying. The only thing that I was like, what the fuck is this? Is that, and I don't know, have either of you played this game?
No.
I haven't played it yet.
So minor spoilers, I guess. And I don't know, again, I've not played the original Metroid. I highly doubt this was part of the original Metroid. But when you get to Mother Brain and you win, it does the standard Metroid thing of like, oh no, there's a bomb on the planet that you have to like escape now. And then you get on your ship and I was like, fuck, I'm awesome, credits roll, whatever. And immediately like another cutscene starts up and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then they drop you on a separate planet as Zero Suit Samus.
Yeah.
For a whole segment that you have to, it's basically Metal Gear Metroid, where you have to like avoid the space pirates because you just have like a little dinky handgun that like stuns them for 2 seconds.
Oh, right.
And so I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not what's supposed to happen. And so it was frustrating, but it's not long enough that it really sinks the experience. Like, it takes like a couple run-throughs and there's enough checkpoints where you're like, all right, now I gotta get through this section. And then you get your fucking suit back and you unlock the screw attack and then you fucking murder everyone. And you're like, all right, time to leave now.
Perfect.
It's funny you mentioned that. I had this very same issue last year playing Fury or Furi, Furi, however you want to pronounce it, where I got through all the bosses and there was an ending and everything was very satisfying. But wait, it's not actually an ending at all. And there's a new boss. And I'm like, guys, come on, man. Like, and I stopped playing. I'm like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't have the patience.
What?
Can't put it on the list.
Oh my God.
I just didn't, man. I'm like, no, don't show me credits and then tell me that there's like another boss. Like,
I don't want to get into this ending. I don't want to.
He should have learned from Nier Automata.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into this ending thing again.
Automata is a worse offender because you have to play the same game, like 80% the same game with a few extra new stuff like thrown in there.
It gets shorter every time, Paul.
I don't want to. No, okay, look.
No, Mike, tell me. Tell me.
We're not doing.
No,
this.
we can stomp on Arnie's segment. Do it.
We're not talking about Nier Automata or its endings. That's what I'm saying. We're talking about
Metro.
We're talking about Arnie's game.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, if you haven't played it, fucking play it. It's really, really fucking good.
It looks so good. I was shocked. It looks
really nice.
No.
It
I
controls amazingly. Like, the way I played it was my arcade cabinet has a bunch of emulators, and I was able to hook up my 360 controller to it. So I got to play it with a nice controller, and it was fucking great, honestly.
Nice. Even just the way, like, compared to the original Metroid, like, Samus moves in Zero Mission with so much more purpose. There's like weight, you know, like when she jumps, it looks snappier, it looks less floaty. when she falls, again, less floaty. It's just like, you know, she's wearing a fucking like heavy suit, man. Like it should actually like have some weight to it. Oh man, I was so surprised because I'd never looked into it. Like I'm not a huge Metroid guy, except now with Dread and everybody talking about Dread.
Yeah,
and
it's back in the zeitgeist, baby.
Yeah, maybe I do want to play these games that I don't actually have time for, but really, you know what I mean?
Well, now I've beat Super, Fusion, and Zero Mission, so I only have to beat the second one, Dread, and the Prime games. I've never played any of the Prime games.
Are those even Metroid games? Like those are a completely different experience, aren't they? Oh man,
I know you are not talking smack about the Metroid.
Oh no. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying like they should. When someone's
it's kind of the same way that Castlevania split into the Egavania and the classic Castlevanias. I think Metroids are divided into the first-person Prime,
I guess,
and the classic Metroidvania style, and then other M is just sitting somewhere around there.
Yeah. Right. And in chat, Jay is saying, don't forget the Game Boy Metroid games.
I know.
Which I wonder how good those are.
That's the second one that I'm talking about, because isn't Metroid 2 Game Boy? I mean, there was a remake.
Oh, I thought you meant you were going to play the remake on 3DS.
Well, the thing about the remake is my understanding is that the second game holds up pretty okay. I don't know if that's actually true or not.
I think it's like, I want to play the second one on Game Boy because I think it's got a real atmosphere of its own.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think a lot of people love about it, is that it has like a really insane atmosphere, especially for a Game Boy game, let alone an 8-bit 2D game.
Yeah.
Not to mention like the soundtrack is apparently just like nuts, like absolutely crazy for a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
I think it's just that like it's a little rough to play in the same way that the first one is kind of rough to play. That's all.
Because in the second one, it's like the objective, I think, is you have to kill a certain amount of Metroids. You're just hunting specific Metroids down, as opposed to fighting, classic baddies.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have to play Federation Force, which
Other M.
Sure.
Yep, gotta play Other M. Gotta play
Other M. I just skip all the cutscenes. And
I gotta play the pinball game, the DS pinball game.
Well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually.
And isn't there a demo like Hunters or something? That's another DS game.
I think that's 3DS, maybe DS. That's some kind of DS. Two. Yeah, Metroid Prime Hunters.
God.
Yeah, man.
So much shit.
Well, you have a long way to go, sir. So at the end of Zero Mission, then you get in. So Samus is in the Samus suit, and then you get the like regular armor. Is there like more credits after that?
Yeah. So after you beat the last part, that's when you get the like. Here's your completion percent, your completion time. Here's the level of sexiness Samus you get, depending on how good you were. Mine was like, I think she took off her helmet. I was not an accomplished bounty hunter.
Oh, lame.
Yeah. I know. That's I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
But no. I think they do the thing, Paul. They never roll credits until the very, very end.
Okay, so
I was just expecting credits. Like I saw her fly away on the ship, and I was like, "And the credits."
Okay, that's like, different. That's
no
different.
Credits.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just don't want to see credits. Credits are like my emotional like, release.
That's your stopping point. As soon as it says created by, you're like throw the controller away. You're like fuck, it's over. Thank God.
Yeah. No, I mean I'll watch the credits. Like I think it's fun to watch credits. It's a satisfying few minutes. Often the ending music in games is pretty good and a nice little payoff. But I don't want to play the game
I've been trained to always let the credits roll in case there's some bullshit epilogue video that I'll accidentally skip if I.
No, for sure. Yeah, you have to just let them go. Yeah.
I feel like I'm giving them validation by putting my DS in the corner while the credits roll. Their names are popping up, so their work was not in vain.
Right on, man. Yeah, that's one. Like between Dread and Zero Mission now, there haven't been any Metroid games since Super Metroid where I'm like, I really want to play this.
Play
but
Fusion.
yeah, this 1-2 punch of even Fusion, I'm like, but this 1-2 punch
Fusion ranks higher than Zero Mission. But
Really,
because
eh?
Zero Mission is a remake, it does it so fucking well. Like, it's one of the better remakes of an old school game that I've seen done like really well, in that it never felt like it was like slavishly devoted to the original in any way other than like the main story and like the basic like building blocks of the game. Everything else, it felt like they were like, fucking just make it good.
Yeah. So there's nothing from the original that you'd say is actually better.
You know, I haven't played the original enough to really say that with any sort of conviction, but because I'm a fucking asshole, I will say that yes, there's nothing in the original that is better than this game.
Can you turn off the mini map in Zero Mission?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, just curious. I'm just wondering, like, if you really wanted to kind of immerse yourself in that like lost original Metroid kind of, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, let's be real though. Who has the time?
Who has the fucking time?
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
No.
Right on, man.
Well, and with that, I think we can bring this episode to a close. Thank you, gentlemen. We did indeed, in fact, talk about what we have been playing. I want to thank Paul and Arnie again for keeping me company during this day after tomorrow that is kind of happening right now. We all especially want to thank listeners, patrons, our Twitch pals for tuning in, and we hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like what you heard, want to hear more, again, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts
and
is
Spotify.
a huge solid for us.
That Spotify.
Oh, and Spotify. Thank you. There are a ton of episodes now to sink your teeth into and cozy up by the fire with. You can also keep track of all of our shenanigans on social media. Our link tree at linktr.ee/regionfreegamers, and chat with us on our Discord channel. And you can meet other great people. Mm-hmm. If you fancy being generous, we do have that Patreon too, if you care. Thanks everybody. Stay safe, stay warm, take care out there. Region Free Gamers, peace out.